Actually, let me start that again. This is Trish Mangold, holistic health practitioner, and I'm so happy that you're here. Um, I am going live in Harmonium in our online community as well as Zoom. So I have two cameras here. I'm going to be primarily focusing over here on Zoom, and I'm going to try to, if anyone has any questions, you can always unmute yourself and pop in and ask some questions. And that's best done in the Zoom app because then I can see the chat and also uh, you can unmute yourself and ask questions. Okay, so we are already in week 2 of our exhale. We're going to be talking about the lungs and the breath this month of March. And I wanted to recap last week's call, the introduction to exhale. We often think about the breath work, but often we can't take a breath unless we've released the capacity that we have within us is expanded once we fully exhale. And sometimes, we kind of shallow exhale and we shallow breathe. But when we stretch the capacity on the exhale, so it's called that extra expired breath, and we kind of push it out. Then we can really take a full inhale and expand in all directions in our low ribs, through our back, the back of our lungs, as well as not so we're just not shallow breathing or breathing up in our shoulders, wearing our shoulders as earrings. Often in times of stress, we tend to do that without realizing it. So today we are going to, I hope everyone can hear me okay. But we're going to go do a little recap from last week. We're going to drop into a grounding breath practice. And then we're going to move into some new content for today. Okay. So the power of the exhale. Here are some key, actually, yeah, a little summary from last week. Some key takeaways from last week. The power of the exhale. And just moving my notes around so I can see the Zoom chat easily. Here we go. Power of the exhale. Some key points that we talked about last week. The exhale is the body's natural reset mechanism. Lengthening our exhale helps us activate our parasympathetic nervous system, and that's the part of our nervous system that is responsible, allows the body to rest, to repair, to digest. And the longer the exhale, we can slow our heart rate. We can improve heart rate variability. Now, this is a marker that many of those wearable devices that we might have they measure our heart rate variability, and the lower our heart rate variability, that's a longevity marker. So we want to work on improving our heart rate variability, and the longer our exhale, we can calm our racing thoughts and be more present in the moment. And that's what we want, right? We want to be more present and less reactionary emotionally. We want to improve our mood. So this can instantly shift. If we're feeling a little triggered, we can instantly shift that into a different perspective and a different physiology response. And it can shift our attitude and our emotional tone. So in traditional Chinese medicine, the lungs are linked to the metal element and influence both our physical and emotional well-being. Okay. And when we have balanced lung energy, we support clarity and courage, inspiration, gratitude, and healthy boundaries. And when we're restricted in our lung capacity, it can show up as grief. It may sit heavy on our chest. We can feel that weight on our chest, a tightness, sadness, difficulty letting go, and feeling unseen or unheard. So emotions are energy in motion. They create chemicals in the body. And when emotions stagnate, they can affect our sleep, our digestion, communication, ability to express clearly what we feel in any given moment. I always say there's no such thing as bad emotions, but there are heavier emotions and lighter emotions, and we want to have a healthy emotional response. So I was just in North Carolina giving a talk to a really dynamic group of women. And something that landed a lot that I heard the feedback that I got afterwards was the fact that emotions, whether it's a positive or a heavier emotion, should really move through the body. Thoughts create energy and motion, and it starts with our brain, and it should move throughout the body in about 90 seconds. So we've all seen like that deer in headlight. We all kind of can reference, it kind of lands when you talk about that deer in the headlights moment where you kind of freeze, and you might have a moment where you feel that way, like you freeze, or you're just like taken aback by a moment, and you can acknowledge it and then shake it off, literally shake it off. Deers do that. When you drive by after they've been frozen in the deer in headlight moment, they shake it off and walk in nature. And we can learn from that as well. We've, we've been disconnected from that a little bit at times. And this is how we can remember and move back to a healthy response of energy and motion in our bodies. Because when that energy gets stuck and creates issues in the tissues, we often get we can get stagnation. Like we talked about it in January, we talked about stagnation in the liver related to irritability and frustration and anger. If those emotions are sitting heavy and coming up frequently, that's an indication that we can support the liver health. And we talked about wearing castor oil packs and eating bitter foods for that. We talked about also we can do, liver, the Zen cleanse is a beautiful way to move energy and vitality through the liver. So our emotions and our physical health are really intertwined. So that's what I wanted to bring up that. And so it can impair our detox pathways when we get heavy emotions stuck in our tissues and our organ systems. And the lungs is no exception to that. The lungs is create it's our major detox pathway. Our gut, our liver, elimination pathways, sweat, and lungs and skin are related in Chinese medicine. So sweating through our skin, our largest organ is our skin, is a major detox pathway. So paying attention, do you sweat easily, or does it take you a lot to sweat? That can be an indication of clogged detox pathways. So supporting the lungs and moving the body with the blood and lymph is a great way to make sure that our skin is open, our detox pathway through the skin pathway is open, as well as using our full capacity of our breath. And this month we're focusing significantly more with the emphasis on the exhale, because we often talk about taking a deep breath, inhale, but if we haven't let go emotionally, mentally, physically of our breath, then we don't have the capacity to take the fullest inhale. So the inhale is about receiving life force energy, oxygen exchange, and the exhale is about releasing detox CO2. And here's some cool stuff that we talked about last week that I think really a lot of people were interested in was the fact that weight loss happens through an exhale, because when we burn fat in the system, it converts a lot of that gets converted to CO2 as waste, and we need to exhale it out through the skin, and that's the major pathway for that. So the lungs help regulate. They're a protective energy, and it influences our immune resilience, our skin health, and our energetic boundaries. And the lungs are a major detox organ. Carbon dioxide leaves through the exhale. Breath supports metabolic waste removal. During fat metabolism, most fat leaves the body as carbon dioxide through the breath. Isn't that interesting? I'll say that again. Most fat leaves the body as carbon dioxide through the breath. Approximately 84% of fat loss is via the lungs. So breath also supports lymphatic movement, blood circulation, diaphragm mobility, and emotional release. So the key takeaway is every exhale is an opportunity to release what the body no longer needs, physically, emotionally, and energetically. So today, some of the new content, before we get into the new content, I'm going to slow down a little bit. I know I wanted to cover a lot today, and I may have rushed through that a little bit, but I'm going to slow down here intentionally, and I invite you to sit back, whether you're laying down in bed, wherever time you're tuning into the replay, you might be maybe tuning in for a good night's rest. And this is a good practice to, or even set the intention of your day before your day begins. But whenever you're tuning into this, I invite you to join me on this grounding practice. So let's arrive together and sit comfortably and allow your shoulders to soften. Maybe take a few shoulder rolls back and down. Unclench your jaw. Separate your teeth. Maybe keep your mouth, lips closed if that's comfortable for you. Relax your hands, maybe face up in your lap, ready to receive what we're about to cover together. And let's take that last exhale and then just push it out a little more. Now, I invite you to gently take a long, slow inhale through the nose if you can. And now slowly exhale through your mouth, longer than your inhale. Again, inhale softly, feeling your belly rise, the low ribs expand, the back of your ribs, through the expansion between your shoulder blades. Now your chest, letting the body drop a little deeper this time as you exhale, as slow as you can go. One more time, inhale. And exhale, slow and steady. Now begin noticing the inhale as it creates expansion. And as the inhale creates expansion, but also the exhale can create space. Space in the chest, space in the mind, space between reaction and response. Again, inhale and exhale. Every longer exhale, the body receives a signal. You are safe enough to soften, whether that's space on your forehead, soften around something heavy that's been weighing on your chest and your heart, a softening around something that's been on your mind. Allow your next exhale to release tension in the chest. Perhaps there's tightness in the belly. You can release just 1% more. And inhale. And as you exhale, this is an invitation to quiet any of the mental noise, any of the chatter. And then just pause at that bottom of the exhale. And just allow your mind's eye to scan in the body where you feel a sense of lightness, a sense of expansion. And on the next inhale, breathe in. I choose to let go. And exhale, letting go. One more time. Inhale, I choose to let go. And exhale, the lightness, the weight, the tension. And now, just one more time, we're going to inhale, release. Pause at the top. And exhale, letting go. Maybe notice where in the body that lands. Is it the bottom of your belly? Is it a softening over your shoulder? Maybe a relaxation over your jaw, your chest, your throat. Now come back into your surroundings. And I'm just going to make sure I'm not missing any comments, questions, or give anyone an opportunity to unmute and share what may have came up for them in that moment. Okay. So today we're going to talk about the exhale and how it creates space. So as we explored how the exhale releases waste and regulates the nervous system, we want to build on this by understanding the exhale creates internal space. And this matters because we live in a mild state of breathing, holding without realizing it. We use the capacity of our inhale and exhale is a small percentage of what our lungs are built for. And stress, daily life can often shorten this breath and tighten the diaphragm. And this creates a shallow breathing, neck tension. It's often where I can carry it. Reduced oxygen exchange, and mental reactivity. So instead of being more thoughtful when we feel in our responses, whether it's being triggered or not, just being more thoughtful and more present, we can tend to be more reactionary. So if we just go back to our breath, this can help release where we're holding on to this tension. And the diaphragm is a powerful regulator. So if you don't know the diaphragm, if you kind of put your fingers along your rib cage, you follow down the chest, kind of get underneath those rib cage, that's kind of your diaphragm. And it's this balloon that expands on the inhale and it contracts on the exhale to help push the air out of the lungs. And we've talked about blood and lymph, and the diaphragm plays a big role. It's a huge muscle. It plays a big role in moving our lymph and supporting our return of our blood to our heart, and also influencing our vagus nerve signaling. So our vagus nerve is that huge nerve that kind of starts like at the base of our spine, and it branches out behind our ears, goes down our throat, around our chest, like the tree roots of going down into the soil, but it comes into our gut. And that signaling is a two-way highway, and it reads information from our gut, from our nutrients, goes back and forth to the brain, that gut-brain axis. And it's an amazing, there's a lot of ways that we can engage our vagus nerve to help us get more in that state of rest, repair, and digest. So a couple of rounds of deep exhaling, inhaling and exhaling before mealtime is a great way to support digestion, improve energy, and even our hormones. So regulating healthy response to cortisol, and which all relates to minerals, because if we have elevated cortisol all the time and we're not getting into this parasympathetic rest, repair, digest mode, it's eating up our minerals as well. And minerals are important for nerve signaling and hydration and a whole host of things. So everything's interconnected. So the emotional part of this, so that was the diaphragm function. And so when we exhale fully, the diaphragm resets. The next inhale becomes more efficient and oxygen exchange improves. So that helps improve our blood flow to our extremities and vital organs as well. So also the lymph, right? So it's related to the lymph as well, moving the lymph. So that's better for our elimination of toxins that the lymph can carry out through the detox pathways for elimination, whether that's through sweat, through the breath, the exhale of the breath, and through elimination in our urine and healthy bowel movements. So also that diaphragm movement can massage our stomach and our organ systems as well. It kind of just creates this whole malleable kind of massage, contraction, expansion effect. So the emotional piece of this, the full exhale also interrupts emotional buildup. So sometimes I love to exhale and have an audible sigh or a hum. And this vibration is energy and motion as well. And that creates a ripple effect in the body. So a full exhale interrupts emotional buildup. So instead of immediately reacting, the exhale creates pause. So we can, if there's something that we want to say, but we're not quite sure how we say it, or when we want the words to come out intentionally, you can take a pause and take a few deep exhales and see what comes forward and see how that changes the dynamic of the result and the outcome of what you're hoping to move forward with. So the pause helps regulate the tone of your voice, it improves perspective, and it softens the impulsive reactions. So I just love all this because it's just a free tool that we have. It doesn't cost anything, and it can really improve our relationships to ourselves and to others. So this exhale gives us access to choice before reaction. So I'll say that again. I think that's powerful. The exhale gives us access to choice before reaction. So we talked about HRV, heart rate variability, and resilience. So heart rate naturally speeds up on the inhale, and on the exhale, heart rate slows. So this natural rhythm trains adaptability. The higher our HRV is linked with emotional resilience, better sleep, improved recovery, and stronger cardiovascular health. This is important, especially for women. You know, cardiovascular heart attacks are the #1 killer for women. And if we can just step into a few rounds of breath throughout the day to strengthen our heart rate variability, it's a beautiful thing, a gift that we can give ourselves. So a calm exhale teaches heart rate flexibility. Okay, so because healing often begins in the space we create, not in the force we apply. So I want to go into the vagus, digestion, belly fat, inflammation, and emotional regulation, and how this relates to weight, hormones, cravings, and mood. So just coming through my notes, catching up here. So I just want to say the diaphragm is that metabolic pump. So every time we breathe deeply, the diaphragm moves downward. The organs receive a gentle massage, lymphatic circulation improves, and blood flows back to the heart more efficiently. This helps the body clear metabolic waste, inflammation, toxins carried through the lymph. And research also suggests that our diaphragmatic breathing can influence vagus nerve function and autonomic regulation. So this helps with metabolic function too. So if anyone's dealing with, some of these metabolic dysfunctions, like diabetes, like just switching between fat burner mode and sugar burner mode and our metabolism, going into those longer fasts and feeling supported, breath work would be a beautiful way to have that healthy state changer through those challenging moments when you're thinking, you might think you need food, but oftentimes we just need a state changer. Oftentimes we're leaning into food as the state changer. So the breath and belly weight, weight and stubborn fat. Many people think that weight gain is only about calories and exercise. But the biggest driver of belly fat is actually stress hormones. In fact, it's called cortisol belly. So if you're often doing all the things, exercising, eating well, and you've got the stubborn belly fat, look at your nervous system regulation and check in with yourself about your cortisol. Oftentimes cortisol can also put weight. We get puffy around the neck and puffy in the face. And these are common signs that cortisol might be chronically elevated. Cortisol isn't always bad. A healthy response to cortisol gets us out of harm's way. It motivates us to perform and get ready for the day and show up in life. But if we're constantly stuck in elevated cortisol, it eats up our hormones, it eats up our minerals, and it creates this pattern of stubborn fat in our body that isn't serving us. It throws off our insulin regulation, makes us more insulin resistant. So then we're not getting into that metabolic ketosis where our brain thrives in ketones. We're stuck in sugar burner mode, and we have a hard time moving through the day. If you have to snack throughout the day and you couldn't just go 3 meals a day without snacking. That's a sign that you're insulin resistant. So cravings increase. Sugar often increases because we're mineral depleted because cortisol eats up minerals, and the fat storage shifts towards the abdomen. And this is why stress is strongly associated with abdominal fat accumulation. And studies have shown that interventions reducing stress, improving body awareness, can also reduce cortisol patterns and abdominal fat over time. So breathing practices are super important because they help regulate cortisol and autonomic system balance. And studies combining exercise with slow breathing and mindfulness, researchers observed that there's a reduction in cortisol and improvements in metabolic markers and that stubborn belly fat. So breathing isn't just about relaxation, it's metabolic regulation. So cool. I just love this information. So I hope this is landing well for you. So breath and hormones and cravings. So the breath influences several hormones and connected to appetite and mood. We've touched on cortisol. Chronic stress elevates cortisol, which increases sugar cravings. It increases abdominal fat storage and disrupts sleep. Breathing practices slow respiration and that can reduce cortisol and improve stress regulation. So it's a feedback loop. So the more you practice to reduce the cortisol and stress, the better your breath is more regulated. And then the more you regulate your breath, the better your cortisol is regulated. So insulin is a hormone. Insulin's job is to pull the sugar out of our bloodstream. So the food that we eat is converted to glucose, to pull that glucose out of the bloodstream and to use it for cellular fuel. So when stress hormones remain elevated, our blood sugar becomes less stable, cravings increase, we become perhaps our A1C, if it's not under 5, that's the healthy range, the goal that we want. And if that number is 5 or higher, we're in that pre-diabetic range. Cravings increase. We feel, energy crashes. As high as your blood glucose goes, that's as low as it's going to go. So you get those energy dips, and that's largely responsible for the carb cravings, the sugar cravings, and snacking between meals. So we want more of an even keel fluctuation of glucose in the bloodstream throughout the day. And this will largely help with how weight is distributed on the body, our hormones. Even cortisol and insulin is related to our sex hormones and our happy feel-good hormones, our neurotransmitters, that dopamine, serotonin, and regulating everything. So it's part of the base of that hormone hierarchy in that pyramid. So we want to focus on regulating cortisol and insulin. So when stress hormones are elevated, fat storage increases as well. And then reducing stress through breath, through the exhale, through mindfulness of that breath work, really improves glucose regulation and metabolic health. And this is great, right? Because these are free tools that everyone has access to. So breath and emotional regulation. I love to talk about emotions. They're energy in motion. They created with thoughts in our mind that create energy in motion throughout the body. It's not new information to learn that the lungs are related to sadness and grief and heavy emotions like that, difficulty letting go. And then we have lighter emotions also associated with the lungs. So there's analysis showing that breathwork significantly reduces anxiety and depressive symptoms. So we can slow breathing, increases heart rate variability, and also improved emotional stability, better stress recovery, and improved mental clarity. And this one long exhale can change how we feel instantly. The inhale activates, the exhale regulates. So physiologically, the heart rate increases on the inhale and it slows on the exhale. The rhythm trains the nervous system to move between activation and relaxation. And when the exhale is longer than the inhale, the body shifts towards repair mode. So it's just a different way of saying some of the things I've said so far, but I feel like when you hear it 2 or 3 times, it just lands, and one way might land better than the other. So emotional and energetic, in Chinese medicine perspective, the lungs receive life, and it helps us release what no longer serves us. The lung energy flows well. We feel inspired. So this is the energy and the emotions connected with our lungs. We're inspired, we're clear-minded, when we're resilient. And if there's some restriction in the energy flow in our lungs, or if we're feeling moving through emotions, heavier emotions, it can be connected to grief, heaviness, sadness, and difficulty letting go. So breath is the bridge between the body, mind, and emotions. So today I'm just going to go a little lighter. The closing reflection is today we explored how something as simple as an exhale influences metabolism, hormones, cravings, inflammation, mood, emotional resilience. Every inhale brings life in. It's an opportunity to receive, and every exhale is the body's opportunity to release what it no longer needs, release the stress, the waste, the tension, old emotions. So the next time life feels overwhelming, remember that one of the most powerful resets available to you is already happening every time you breathe out. So I look forward to connecting with you next week. We're going to move back to Wednesday, our normal time at noon on Wednesdays. And we're going to talk about the breath, the gut-brain axis. And I can't wait to connect with you then. And I look forward to it. If there's any questions or comments before we go, I invite you to unmute or pop them into the chat. But otherwise, don't forget to lean into that exhale. And until next Wednesday at noon Pacific, I will see you then. Take care.